How's it going, YouTube? Yep. See if everything's working. All right. We are live. How's it going, YouTube? I'm doing a live stream today. We're going to talk about some things, nothing too crazy. I hope everything going well. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about, Marvel stuff. I'm going to react to some videos as we see. I'm reacting to Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars. And yeah, also we're going to be doing a tier list where we are right here. Awesome. And we're also going to be reacting to this video, Churro Boyo. He's a really cool YouTuber. His videos are awesome. So, yeah. Alrighty, I'm going to see if we got pushed out. Okay. Let's see. All right, I am live now. Go check out the channel. Right there. There you get this and you get that. Right, let's go. Go check out the channel. Alrighty. Hope everyone's doing good. Waiting for people to come in. Getting everything out right now. Everything we got. I'm also working on a new video. Going over what Marvel is wanting to have us do for preparation for Doomsday. So hopefully that video comes out at some point in September. So
Marvel's destruction of their multiverse of their multiverse.
Alrighty. We're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Ready. Back over there. Bring it over. We're here. Okay, cool. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Alrighty, we're gonna be reacting to Marvel Secret Wars 2015 Simplified. Alright. Well, Lego.
Marvel's destruction of their multiverse was the greatest comic book story that was ever told in the history of comic books because it has everything. You have Thanos who's hopping across the multiverse, killing all the superheroes across multiple worlds. You've got the cosmic entities getting obliterated. Captain America gets the Infinity Gauntlet and then it promptly gets destroyed. It's phenomenal. It's incredible. And it all
Hold up. Do you think that Marvel's gonna actually like fully adapt to this? Yeah, you gotta hope so.
all kicks off with what's called the Incursions and Avengers World. I will have a reading order down in the description, by the way, if you decide to go through and collect the comics and read them yourself. But in Incursions and Avengers World, it starts when Black Panther learns about the Incursions. And he learns about this by way of a woman named Black Swan, in the sense that he sees a rhinoceros running out of what appears to be an invisible wall. When he crosses that barrier, he basically sees another Earth orbiting the Marvel Earth as if it were like a moon. And then these people appear, along with this woman with white hair. Her name is Black Swan. She becomes incredibly important from that point going forward into the story. But she basically ends up detonating what is in effect an antimatter bomb that was left on that Earth out there in space, and it blows the Earth apart. And so Black Panther ends up defeating her alongside some of her henchmen, and then he basically takes her prisoner. At that point, he calls in the Illuminati. But the Illuminati, historically speaking in Marvel, a lot of you guys know this, but for those of you who don't, they were just kind of like a coming together of the heads of the superhero communities or the most prominent superhero teams in Marvel. They would share information, different things like that, but they were very secretive, kind of controlling the world behind the scenes to a degree. But at this point in time, Professor Xavier of the X-Men was dead. He had been killed since Avengers vs. X-Men, which is actually a story that we'll reference later on in this video. And Captain together of the heads of the superhero communities or the most prominent
It's
superhero
very
teams
easy
in Marvel. They would share information,
deal with,
different things like that, but
but
they were very
yeah,
secretive,
this
kind of
is
controlling the
kind of
world behind the scenes to a degree. But at this point in time,
kind
Professor
of grim
Xavier
so
of the
far.
X-Men,
So
Captain America had taken his place. And so when the Illuminati are brought together, Black Panther explains everything he saw. And then Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four goes to basically interview or talk to Black Swan. And the way that she explains it, what Black Panther saw was an incursion. And what she did is she prevented the destruction of their Earth. And that the way this works, which you may or may not know about during your travels from Doctor Strange 2 and whatnot, is that an incursion is when another Earth appears in the sky of a Earth. And from the time that second Earth appears, you have 8 hours to either destroy it or be destroyed. Because what happens is that if both those Earths collide with each other, both universes are completely and totally wiped out. But if you destroy one of the Earths, then the universes pass right through each other. And what's cool here is Black Swan explains some of the strategies that other realities have used to save themselves from the multiversal collapse. For instance, some superheroes on other Earths have actually evacuated as many people as they could from their planet and then destroyed their Earth. It's considered a cowardly thing, but some have done it and it preserved their universe anyway. Other times, superheroes just fought the good fight and they ultimately perished and there was nothing they could do. But once all this is explained to Reed Richards, he basically explains it to the rest of the Illuminati. And the question they have is like, what do we do here? And the real solution is we use the Infinity Gauntlet because the Infinity Gauntlet's so incredible.
step to step. Oh, so talk about incursions right now, but based on what I'm watching, Marvel is definitely going this route for sure. I hope so.
Powerful, you can do anything with it. And so they assemble the gauntlet. It's given to Captain America because he's like the only guy who won't be corrupted by its power. And then Captain America successfully pushes the other universe away when a second incursion happens. The problem is that in the process, the Infinity Stones are destroyed, except for the Time Stone, which disappears. It does eventually come back later on. We may or may not talk about it in this video because it's not overly important, but it is kind of cool. It deals with Kang the Conqueror and all that kind of stuff. But the important thing is that because the Infinity Gauntlet could not stop the incursions, it was like writer Jonathan Hickman telling us right off the bat, the multiverse is going to end. The most powerful object in the universe could not stop an incursion. It's only a matter of time before the superheroes and all of the universe and even the multiverse gets completely wiped out. And so in this first part with incursions and Avengers World, all the incursion stuff is covered in New Avengers. Avengers World is just the Avengers comics. They're not overly important, but they're kind of important at the same time because they introduce some plot threads. But the idea here is that at some point, Iron Man went to Captain America and said, like, the Avengers are basically just a team based out of New York. We need to think bigger. And so Avengers World is basically the formation or the coming together of all these different superheroes across the world that are brought in under the mantle of Avengers. You do get the introduction of guys like Ex Nihilo and Abyss and things like that. Their whole thing doesn't really get explained super well until you get to Infinity, which is what we'll talk about right now. So Infinity was the second part of this whole multiversal collapse. And this introduced something called the Builders, that Marvel has had various origins for the universe and even the multiverse over their entire publication history. There's been times where they said the Celestials created everything. There's been times where they said, well, you know, the universe was just birthed into existence from a big bang and it wasn't really created by anybody in particular. The way that Jonathan Hickman explained it in Infinity is the Builders were just this really, really old race that by whatever manner and whatever means, the universe came into existence, but it didn't have any life in it. It was just a series of planets and gases, stars.
Another battle. Another broken phone.
I love
And all that kind of stuff. What the Builders did is they basically created life on varying worlds. And they did that through a combination of like Alephs, which were basically just really advanced robots, Ex Nihilos, who were considered gardeners, and the Abyssi, if you want to call it that. Basically the chick that has really dark hair. And the way this would work is that Ex Nihilo would create life on these worlds. And if the Builders weren't satisfied with it, Abyss would wipe them out and then Ex Nihilo would start all over again. And so it was a really, really cool concept because during the Infinity event, what ended up happening is the Builders made their presence known. And they were traveling across the universe and looking at all these different worlds that they considered to be mistakes, and they were just raising them, right? Just wiping out entire worlds. That the Alephs were basically like the world destruction force. These robots would descend onto a planet, they would wipe out all life on that planet, and then move on to the next as part of the Builder fleet. And so again, because you basically have the story split between New Avengers and Avengers, the Avengers portion of Infinity focuses on two
I will say, I love how Hawkeye and Captain America looks. This comic looks freaking amazing. At least keep going.
things. The first is that it focuses on the Builder War, which is to say the Avengers going to war alongside the rest of the universe against the Builders. I mean, it's like the Avengers and the Kree and the Skrull and the Badoon, like the Shi'ar Empire, the whole 9 yards. It's the universe fighting for its life against this overwhelming force. There's this really, really amazing moment in the story where there's a kind of parlay that's struck between the forces of the universe and the Builders, and Captain America is kind of like leading this force, right? Like just this unified front of all these empires across the universe. And the kind of parlay is orchestrated by Captain America with Thor speaking on his behalf. You guys who have read the story know exactly what I'm talking about. So Thor shows up here to talk to the Builder, and what ends up happening is Thor just kind of like says a prayer to his hammer, right? He was like, you know, Father, if you ever found me worthy, guide my heart and not just my hand. And so what he does is he throws the hammer into the sky, and then the conversation between him and the Builder starts. And the whole time this conversation's going on, the hammer flies out into space. It goes
I didn't know. I did not know Mjolnir went that far, but damn.
goes into a star and loops back. And so on its way back, while the Builder's talking all this trash to Thor, one of the guys who's on this ship with Captain America is just like, there's something coming into orbit. And Gladiator, who's the leader of the Shi'ar Empire, one of the races working alongside Captain America, he's like, what is it? And Captain America's like, a reckoning. And so like this hammer's just descending back down to the planet at just incredible speed. And while the Builder's talking trash to Thor, he's telling him like, your race is subservient, right? The human race is a plague, all that kind of stuff. We mean to end that plague and so on and so forth. And so Thor's like, what if I am not just a man? And like the hammer comes flying down and punches a hole through this Builder, right?
Look at that.
And then Captain America's like, they can be broken, so they can be beaten. And then Thor like rallies all these different forces across the universe together with this resounding speech about how there's battle to be fought here and all that kind of stuff. It was really, really, really cool. Now, eventually, the Avengers and the forces of the universe go on to defeat the Builders. But before that defeat comes, the New Avengers comics, which focus on the Illuminati, have the Illuminati meeting with one of the Builders. And what the Builder reveals is that while they are traveling across the universe and raising all these different worlds, their main target is Earth. And their main target is the destruction of the Earth, because if they obliterate Earth, then it saves the universe. Now, of course, following the defeat of the Builders, they're no longer a credible threat. And so the story transitions to the second part, which is Thanos. And the reason why is because over the course of Infinity, with the Avengers out in space fighting the Builder War and the Illuminati out doing their thing, Earth was largely just unprotected because the X-Men were fractured during the events of like Schism and all that kind of stuff. So there's no one there to really keep it safe. Thanos had actually been traveling across the universe, killing all his offspring for fear of the fact that they would rise up against him and destroy him one day. And he ends up learning that he has a child on Earth. And so over the course of Infinity, as kind of a background part of the story, Thanos was on Earth, wiping out the Inhumans for the most part, and trying to find his son. Eventually he does, but once you get to the end of Infinity, it all comes to a head. The Avengers and their guys face off against Thanos and his Black Order, so like Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Ebony Maw, Black Dwarf, Supergiant, those guys. And ultimately, Thanos is not killed, and his Black Order isn't killed. Instead, they're imprisoned in Amber. And what that does is it allows Jonathan Hickman to put them on the back burner because he brings them back later on in the story. But after Infinity, and one of the things that I do want to point out here is that even during the Incursions and Avengers World storyline, as well as Infinity, Jonathan Hickman was doing small things here and there, basically bolstering and growing the superhero community and the number of superheroes that would be a part of this multiversal collapse. So you saw, for example, the introduction of Starbrand through the last White event, as well as Nightmask. Nightmask was a little weird because seemingly he didn't feel overly important to what was going on, but he did kind of have a role to play. Starbrand was a really cool and really powerful superhero, that his power was relative to whoever he was fighting, and he couldn't control his level of power. So he was similar to the Hulk in the sense that where the
So this guy is like a mimic. It's kind of crazy, not gonna lie to you.
Hulk gets stronger the angrier he gets. Whenever Starbrand faces off against a foe, he has just enough power to defeat that foe, and it doesn't matter who it is. You also saw like the introduction of a new version of Hyperion whose origin story was effectively that of Superman, sent from a dying world and all that kind of cool stuff. It was interesting. But after Infinity, you go into the post-Infinity landscape and Original Sin, and this is really where the story starts to pick up, because one of the things that happens here is as part of the post-Infinity landscape, Jonathan Hickman introduces what's called the Bridge. And the Bridge was constructed by Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four prior to the multiversal collapse, but it basically just not been used. It had been dismantled for a period of time. But the Bridge is restored, and it allows the Illuminati to look into other universes and see how other realities are faring with regards to the Incursions. But then you also get an introduction of a new group called the Black Priests. And the Black Priests are really, really cool here because they're just kind of like this massive enigmatic force that travels the multiverse and is astronomically powerful, and they use magic. But what makes the Black Priest so cool is like this. So if I sit down and I say the word magic, right? I say that whole word. With the Black Priest, it doesn't work that way. One person says M, one person says A, one person says G, so on and so forth. And so each member of the Black Priest possesses one letter of their alphabet. So depending on the length of the word and the spell they're casting, it might take two members of the Black Priest, or it might take all of them working in unison. But whenever they show up to a world, they annihilate all the superheroes and destroy the planet. But the Black Priests, we'll talk about them here in a minute, because they become very important once you get to Time Runs Out. What's also cool about the idea of the bridge is you actually end up seeing different versions of the Illuminati. That it's not always Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four and Black Panther and Namor and those guys. Sometimes it's also like Magneto or Doctor Doom or something along those lines. So it's really cool the way the whole thing plays out. But as a bigger part of all of this, Original Sin is what blew the top off of it all. And it's what really sets the stage for Time Runs Out. Because Original Sin was a story that Marvel wrote where basically the Watcher died. And when the Watcher was killed, everything that the Watcher had seen in relation to any one particular character was revealed to that character. So one of the things that we didn't talk about, and I wanted to wait until this moment to bring it up, is that when Black Panther and the Illuminati, including Captain America, first learned about the incursions, that when the Infinity Gauntlet failed, the question was, what do we do next? And the answer from everybody in the Illuminati, except for Captain America, is we create antimatter bombs and we blow up these alternate Earths. But Captain America was like, no, we don't kill innocent people like that. It's not their fault any more than it's our fault, and we're not going to descend into just that level of violence and chaos. It doesn't matter. And so what ended up happening is, under the direction, or at least at the direction of Tony Stark, Doctor Strange wiped the mind of Captain America of all knowledge of the Illuminati and everything that they had done and were going to do. Original Sin restores it all. And so Captain America not only realizes that the Illuminati exist, he realizes what they intend to do. And so that sets the stage for his character. Now, most of Original Sin in relation to Captain America actually deals with the return of the Time Stone following its disappearance when they first tried to stop the incursions. It's not overly important, but it is kind of cool because Captain America is basically sent forward through time to different points, but in the far-flung future, he's brought to like Kang the Conqueror, Immortus, Iron Lad, who are all basically the same person, but at different points in their lives, right? Like yourself as a teenager, then yourself in your 30s, and then yourself in your 50s, all together in the same.
Not gonna lie to you, this is a crazy picture. Yeah, that's wild.
Place. And what they do is they try to imprison him, because what they realize is Captain America is going to go back and he's going to try to stop the Illuminati, but the Illuminati are doing the right thing. The destruction of alternate Earths is the only thing you can do. And so as a result of that, Captain America ultimately escapes, and that sets the stage for Time Runs Out. Now this part, right, Time Runs Out, is the conclusion of the collapse of the multiverse. And it actually does an 8-month time skip. The reason why Marvel did this is because it allowed Marvel to wrap up pretty much all the solo series for all the different superheroes who were part of the Avengers and New Avengers cast. A really good example of this is Captain America, because what you guys will notice if you go through and you read through the collapse of the multiverse, then you get to Time Runs Out, is that suddenly Captain America is this really old guy. The reason why that happened was because in the Captain America solo series, he faced off against a villain called the Nail, who took away his super soldier serum. And so Captain America just ages up incredibly fast. But because of the nature of this time skip, Time Runs Out basically picks up with the fact that like Captain America is now the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and using the entirety of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s forces, he's hunting the Illuminati, trying to find them everywhere he can. And
You got what, Namor, Beast, who else? Doctor Strange, I'm guessing that's Reed. Guessing that's Reed.
S.H.I.E.L.D. and using the entirety of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s forces, he's hunting the Illuminati, trying to find them everywhere he can. And so for the Illuminati themselves, this is a very difficult situation to be in, because on one hand, they're trying to stop the incursions, but on the other hand, they're trying to avoid Captain America and his forces. And so one of the cool things here is kind of as far as the publishing side goes, that what you end up having is this situation where instead of it being like Avengers Avengers issues whatever through whatever, and then you jump to New Avengers issues whatever through whatever, which is what you did up to this point. And instead, you start alternating Avengers, New Avengers, Avengers, New Avengers. So it makes it really, really easy to follow. But the whole idea is that all these plots start coming to a head. So there's a moment where, like, Namor the Submariner, for example, goes to meet with Doctor Doom. And here's the cool thing. Doctor Doom we haven't talked about yet, but Doctor Doom had been a background part of this story the entire time. Because one of the things that ends up happening is that there are multiple incursions that take place on Earth over the course of this story. I want to say there's something like 4 or 5 that the Illuminati are able to successfully stop. Doctor Doom becomes aware of one of these incursions, and in the process, he starts trying to understand how the incursions work, even going so far as to map the entirety of the multiverse. But what had also happened over the course of this is that there was a falling out between Namor the Submariner and the Illuminati, where, like, Black Panther killed, or at least tried to kill, Namor the Submariner because of Namor's actions in attacking Wakanda in the first place. And in the process, he starts trying to understand how the incursions work, even going so
Okay.
far as to map the entirety of the multiverse. But what had also happened over
Okay.
the course of this
So I
is
think
that
I'm
there was
getting
a
what
falling out
this
between
comic
Namor the
is
Submariner and the
going
Illuminati, where,
towards.
like, Black Panther
Hopefully, I
killed,
mean, they
or at
use
least tried
Doom
to kill,
as
Namor the
this.
Submariner
That would
because of
be
Namor's
pretty cool.
actions during Avengers vs. X-Men. And so where Namor is left for dead, what he ends up doing is coming across the newly freed Thanos and his Black Order, and he allies himself with them. The problem here is that Namor's perspective is that where the Illuminati are now backing off the idea of destroying all these alternate worlds, that Namor the Sub
As this. That would be pretty cool.
during Avengers vs. X-Men. And so where Namor is left for dead, what he ends up doing is coming across the newly freed Thanos and his Black Order, and he allies himself with them.
And
The problem
this
here
is
is
part
that
2
Namor's
of
perspective is that where the
us watching the
Illuminati are
Secret
now
Wars
backing
comics.
off the idea of
If you like,
destroying all
comment,
these
subscribe.
alternate worlds,
Let's
that
go.
Namor the Mariner sees it as the only way to win. He's like the last man standing and doing whatever needs to be done. But allying himself with Thanos and his Black Order, things go exactly the way that you would expect. Instead of Thanos and his Order just kind of destroying the worlds quickly, that in fact, Thanos and his Black Order are taking their time. They're relishing in all the murder and massacre that they're engaging in. And so it's really, really dark. And so ultimately, Namor the Submariner abandons the Black Order of Thanos. And then he goes to Doctor Doom. And you get this amazing moment, right? Where Doctor Doom, as the leader of Latveria, some might even argue he's a king, is having dinner with Namor. And Namor basically explains everything that had transpired up to this point. What the Illuminati were originally doing, how he felt like the Illuminati just weren't willing to do what needed to be done. So he allied himself with Thanos. Thanos was far more sadistic than Namor expected. And so Namor asked Doctor Doom for his help. And Doom's just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And it's so cool the way it happens, because Doctor Doom says, you could have come to me first. You should have come to me first, but you did not. I can forgive your initial dalliances with Richards and the others. Their nature is not conducive to such practicality. But after that, you chose to throw in with your subhuman lot. Now you regret it. And you dragged the stinking carcass of your failure to...
Pause that. Look at that frame.
You should have come to me first, but you did not. I can forgive your initial dalliances with Richards and the
All-time villain.
my door. And so where Namor responds and saying everything will stand or fall on what we face. Like literally we're facing the collapse of the multiverse. The response of Doctor Doom, you should have thought of that, Namor, and more carefully considered your position. You should have known better. Doom is no man's second choice. Literally, Doom is pissed at Namor because Namor didn't come to him first. It's the most petty thing ever, but it's the most Doctor Doom thing ever. But here's the cool thing. During Time Runs Out, Doctor Doom becomes the single most important person in the entirety of the collapse of the multiverse. And we'll talk about why here in a second. But the other great thing about Time Runs Out is that you get answers for everything that's going on, why the incursions are happening and all that kind of cool stuff. And the answers actually come in two forms. The first answer comes by way of the Illuminati themselves, and the second answer comes from Doctor Doom. And so what ends up happening as part of Time Runs Out is that all grudges are put to the side. Captain America and his forces, the Illuminati, the whole 9 yards. They are all now a singular, unified force.
Look at that group. That you got Reed, you got Black Bolt, you got Black Swan, you got Namor, you got, I'm guessing that's Beast. I don't know who that is in the back. I'm guessing that's Spider-Woman. Marv, I don't know, but that's definitely Green Hulk. in Captain America.
Force in trying to find a way to stop the incursions. What Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four reveals is that even using his son, Franklin Richards, who can alter reality on a universal scale, Franklin couldn't do anything to stop the incursions. And so early on, when the incursions were first learned about from the Illuminati, that Reed Richards and the Illuminati themselves sent Hank Pym Ant-Man into the multiverse to try to find what was causing the incursions, because all they knew was that this seemed to be caused by some mysterious guy out there named Raboom Alal. And that was it. That was all we knew about it. And so what ends up happening is Hank Pym comes back and he's like, I didn't find Raboom Alal. What I found was much, much worse. And Hank Pym's tale is incredibly fascinating, because what he says is when he initially went out into the multiverse that there was no true north, right? There were no arrows pointing like that way. So he had to kind of gain his bearings, and then he started jumping through realities. And these realities were wide and varying, but once he figures out his location, he ends up coming across this kind of ragtag refugee fleet composed of builders. That the builder war that we had read about in Avengers was just one part of what was actually happening. This builder war was taking place across the multiverse at the same time, that the builders were eradicating Earths everywhere, because the idea was by destroying an Earth, you can save the universe. And so even if one Earth has to die, however many billions of people on it, it's saving countless trillions, countless unknown numbers, right? It's the most efficient thing to do. And so with this fleet having just been absolutely obliterated, that the builders themselves were hunting the Ivory Kings. Eventually they pick up on this sort of beacon out there in the multiverse, in one particular universe, that seems to indicate the location of the Ivory Kings. When they get there, the Ivory Kings ambush them. Really, it's more like the henchmen of the Ivory Kings. But the builders are eradicated in one fell swoop, like that. Where the Avengers and everybody was struggling against them, they're obliterated instantly. Like the way that Hank Pym describes it, it's
How is Marvel gonna do this? Are they gonna put this in there? Or it's a Secret Wars, or because this is a lot. A lot.
a massacre on multiversal proportions, because after that, Hank Pym looks around and what he realizes is he's basically stumbled onto the battlefield of a much grander war. The Beyonders, who are the Ivory Kings that everybody was talking about, they're annihilating and eradicating every cosmic entity across the
Again, if they don't cast a Beyonder, what's the point? What's the point?
multiverse at the same time. Infinity, Eternity, the Celestials, Galactus, it doesn't matter. They're all being destroyed. And there's like 3 Beyonders doing it, right? So once all these cosmic entities are eradicated, the Living Tribunal shows up, right? The multiverse given form. The second most powerful person as far as the official hierarchy goes under the one above all. These 3 Beyonders annihilate the Living Tribunal. They kill it, right? Which is kind of cool because that explains why it is that earlier on in the Avengers and New Avengers run, you found the body of the Living Tribunal on the moon. Who killed it? How did it get there? And so what's really awesome is Hank Pym is like telling this to everybody, right? The Illuminati and Captain America and the Avengers and the whole 9 yards. And he's like, there's no way that we can win. There's no way that we can pull this off. And so what this does is it leads into what's called the Multiversal Avengers. Because while all that's going on, a field team of Avengers, including Thor, Hyperion, and those guys, are sent out into the multiverse to try to find the cause of the incursions as well. What ends up happening is Thor and his multiversal team end up in a universe that's actually a dimensional gateway. It's how the Beyonders are getting into the main Marvel universe. And it's just an absolute massacre. So much so that everybody except for Thor and Hyperion are killed. And so what ends up happening is Thor and Hyperion in this last moment have like this reconciliation, right? Where they're just like talking as brothers.
Who wins in a fight, Thor or Hyperion? I think Thor.
And arms. And it's amazing because they both realize they're going to die there. There's no way they make it out of that alive. And so Hyperion is just like, will you wait for me in Valhalla? Is what he asked Thor. And Thor's like, brother, today I will race you there. And the two of them just race headlong into their own oblivion. They go out like heroes. It's the greatest moment in the entirety of the story. It's so phenomenal how it's done. But in effect, it's basically just showing there's no way for the superheroes to win against the odds that they're facing. But the question that the audience, that we are kind of left with is, but how? Right? Like, what's going on with all of this? And so that comes by way of Doctor Doom. That what you end up learning here is that there's the Molecule Man Owen Reese, and that Doctor Doom himself has known about the incursions the entire time. That the Molecule Man is this astronomically powerful guy. That he's basically a guy that is supposed to be able to control matter on the molecular level, but he controls atoms, and he can do it on a multiversal level. But his origin story is identical across the multiverse because he was created by the Beyonders. The idea is that the Beyonders dropped a Molecule Man in every single universe, and the goal was to blow them all up at the same time, which would blow up the multiverse. And so long before the Illuminati or any of these guys knew about the incursions, Doctor Doom had found out about it. And so what Doctor Doom and the Molecule Man had done is they had gone into an alternate reality and killed that Molecule Man, with the idea being that if they kill enough Molecule Men, when the Beyonders execute their experiment, right? They press the button, they blow all the Molecule Men up, it won't destroy the entirety of the multiverse. It'll destroy however many universes still have Molecule Men in them. And so when the Molecule Man in that alternate reality is destroyed, it blows the universe up. The unintended side effect is it pushed the universes next to it into the universes next to them, which pushed those universes,
which is causing an incursion. Oh, I get it.
into the universes next to them. And so ultimately Doctor Doom and Molecule Man unintentionally caused the incursions. So the incursions are just a byproduct of Doctor Doom trying to save the entirety of the multiverse. Not only that, the Black Priests are basically like an immune system for the multiverse.
So for Doomsday, are we saying that Doom's a good guy or a bad guy? Who knows?
Multiverse. It's the multiverse fighting back against its own destruction, no different than like antibodies in your body, right? White blood cells. And so once all this comes to a head, you learn that like Black Swan is part of a larger group called Black Swans, and that Doctor Doom himself is Raboom Alal, that he had formed this army across the multiverse that was designed to, one part, destroy alternate Earths in order to save the multiverse, but at the same time kill Molecule Men every way they could find them in order to save the multiverse. But it all comes to a head when Doctor Doom realizes there's no way to stave off the efforts of the Beyonders, because now they're entering into the Marvel multiverse because they realize someone's killing Molecule Men, and they've come to investigate and find out what's going on. And so Doctor Doom basically ends up bringing together all these Molecule Men across the multiverse alongside Doctor Strange, who's basically joined him at that point in time. And there comes a point when they go to the same universe where Thor and Hyperion died, and they literally have this just gigantic space box. It's literally a giant space box full of Molecule Men. So when the Beyonders invade, that Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange open up this box, and all these Molecule Men race to the Beyonders and blow the Beyonders up. But the problem is that because such a massive amount of energy was released at one time, it basically blows up the entirety of the multiverse except for two universes: the Ultimate Universe, which is what the MCU is based on, and the main Marvel universe. And so what Doctor Doom does is, using the Molecule Man, he steals the power of those Beyonders, because that power is just sitting out there in space after the destruction. He steals those powers, and he ends up grabbing little bits and pieces of what's left of the multiverse and forms this hodgepodge planet called Battle World. And that's
And that's where we're going to be leading to, I'm guessing. I hope so.
That's where Secret Wars 2015 picks up. But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to an end, right? I guess that probably bears its own thing. We do have a whole playlist for this, so you guys are welcome to check.
All right. I definitely got to say that this video is pretty good. It's going to be a long reaction video, but it gives you a lot of information about what is coming up in the MCU, and I can't wait. So yeah, if you like this reaction, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, get notified, and yeah, we out. Peace. Okay, cool. All right, the next video we're going to be doing or watching will be this video. 10 comics to read before Avengers Doomsday. Okay. Get my video ready. Get in frame. Okay. What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Rocky, back again with another video. Today we are going to be watching or reacting to a video, Trio Boyo, and this video is probably going to be very, very good to watch, especially before Doomsday. Yeah, it'll be 10 comics to read before Avengers Doomsday. Let's get it.
Avengers Doomsday is on the way. The culmination of Marvel's multiverse saga, everything they've been building towards since Endgame, with characters from all across the Marvel Universe finally coming together, like the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Spider-Man, maybe. Is Spider-Man in this one? Actually, I don't even know. And if you want to get a head start on some of these characters, concepts, and stories before the movie comes out, luckily there's a very easy way to do that. Reading comics! You never have to do homework before you see a superhero movie, but I think that having an understanding of the stories that inspire these movies allows you to have a greater appreciation for not just the movies, but also the history and artistry that goes into creating these characters. Also, so you can brag to your friends that you know more than them. So here are 10 comics to read before you see Avengers Doomsday. This movie looks like it's going to be putting a lot of emphasis on the X-Men and especially Cyclops. I even got to see his costume on display at San Diego Comic-Con this year, which is why the first book you need to read before Avengers Doomsday is Batman Year One, so you can see the origin of Cyclops and his most famous protege.
Okay, so speaking on that, I will be making a video stating on what Disney Plus wants us to watch the 15 Marvel movies leading up to Doomsday. That video is definitely going to drop in September, probably the time of Endgame Encore comes out. So yeah, go look for that.
This video is sponsored by Casetify. Dr. Doom wears his fancy armor not just to cover up his disfigured face, but also to protect himself and look cool doing it, which is why Casetify makes phone cases designed to not just be stylish, but also durable. They have a ton of different cases that fit a whole variety of phone types, whether if you
Skip that.
start reading, most stories will give you everything that you need, and if you're ever confused, there's no shame in looking something up. You can find the books I talk about at your local comic store, or I'll try to put affiliate links down below that help out the channel, or with the Marvel Unlimited subscription. The first book you should read before Avengers is the original Secret Wars from 1984 by Jim Shooter and Mike Zeck. The premise is pretty straightforward. A cosmic being called the Beyonder takes a bunch of Marvel's greatest heroes and villains and transports them to a planet called Battle World. He tells them to fight each other for his amusement and promises whoever wins can have whatever wish they want. So you have the Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, all thrown together against villains like Doc Ock, Ultron, Galactus, and most importantly for this video, Dr. Doom. And while everybody else is busy fighting each other, Doom basically decides that he doesn't want to play this game and instead wants to steal the Beyonder's power for himself. Funnily enough, this event was just made to sell toys, like literally it was only created for a Mattel line, but it still ended up being.
Look at that. Look at that old comic. It looks so cool. I mean, I hope we get symbiote Spider-Man, but we probably won't. You know how Marvel is.
Incredibly influential, and is even the first appearance of Spider-Man's black suit. Now, this book will likely be less important for Doomsday than it is for Secret Wars next year, but at the very least, having an understanding of what the story is can help you appreciate not only what Doomsday is setting up, but also some of the other books on this list. Because one book that I think that Doomsday will be taking a lot of inspiration from is Jonathan Hickman's time on Avengers and New Avengers from 2014. Most notably the tail end of those runs, the climactic arc known as Time Runs Out. Hickman's entire run across these books is outstanding, genuinely is some of the greatest character work that the Avengers have ever had. It follows the Avengers and the Illuminati as the multiverse begins to collapse. Parallel universes start colliding with each other in events called incursions, where two Earths occupy the same space and both universes are destroyed unless one of them is destroyed first. Every second there's a new trolley problem with these ethical implications on a massive scale, and those impossible choices and moral dilemmas start to completely fracture the Avengers. Everyone knows that the multiverse is ending, but nobody can agree on how to stop it, and the decisions that they end up making leads to some of my favorite character beats in the entire Avengers history, like when Namor destroys the first Earth by himself while everyone else is arguing about it.
Okay, I could definitely say that this comic, both of them, Time Runs Out and what he's talking about here, is very, very good read. We should definitely check that out before Doomsday or Secret Wars. It's a really good read. Yeah, let's get back to it.
And based on what we've seen in the Doomsday trailer and what the MCU has been building up these past few years, these two runs seem like they're going to be a pretty direct blueprint for what they're doing at Doomsday. If nothing else, because Doomsday is going to lead into Secret Wars next year, and Hickman's Avengers was the lead into Secret Wars from 2015 by Jonathan Hickman and Assad Ribic. Not to be confused with the original Secret Wars or Secret Wars 2. This book isn't really a sequel to the original Secret Wars as much as it is a completely new story that takes the basic concept and reimagines it. It's essentially the conclusion to the massive story that Hickman had been telling for years across Fantastic Four, Avengers, Avengers and New Avengers, taking the iconography of the original Secret Wars and turning it into like a grand finale for his passion project. And while all the context of his other runs definitely makes the story richer, you can absolutely just pick up Secret Wars and read it on its own, which is how I first read it. I see the MCU Secret Wars taking a lot more inspiration from this story than the original 84.
That comic art looks amazing. Looks freaking amazing.
Version, if for no other reason than the 2015 version is a more modern interpretation, but also it has a much stronger emotional core to build a movie around. After the final incursion destroys the Marvel Universe, Doctor Doom manages to salvage what's left, taking the Beyonders' power and pieces of different universes and combining them into a new world called Battle World, which is, reference it, yeah, whatever. And Doom, being the guy that he is, decides to become God Emperor Doom over this new reality. Meanwhile, the original Reed Richards manages to survive the destruction of the multiverse and challenges his rule. So much of the story fundamentally revolves around the relationship between Dr. Doom and Reed Richards, which is a foundation that
Again, another good art. Jonathan Hickman was definitely cooking making this.
Hickman started building as far back as his Fantastic Four run from 2009. Despite 2015 Secret Wars on the surface looking like some multiversal civil war where action figures are just smashed together, at its core it's a very personal character study about these two men who have had a decades-long rivalry finally coming to a head. And it's a little bit frustrating that a book that's as good as this is being relegated to just another multiverse event, when there's so much more to it than that. Oh, also Doom rips out Thanos.
I swear, if I don't see the shot in any Marvel movie, I'm gonna be upset. This is God Emperor Doom, the best comic shot you can ever see. Look at it. Love it. All right.
A skeleton. Everybody loves that part. It's all they talk about. But Doomsday looks like it's going to be pulling from more than just Secret Wars or Secret Wars adjacent events. In fact, one of the most notable things we see in the trailer is that the Avengers and the X-Men are going to be pitted against each other, at least in some fashion. Which is why the next book is Avengers vs. X-Men from 2012. Written by Brian Michael Bendis, Jason Aaron, Ed Brubaker, Matt Fraction, and Jonathan Hickman, with art primarily by John Romita Jr., Adam Kubert, and Olivier Coipel. Oh boy, a lot of names on this book. The story revolves around the Phoenix Force returning to Earth, and Cyclops believes that it could be the key to restoring the mutant population after they were decimated by Scarlet Witch during House of M. While the Avengers see an incredibly dangerous cosmic entity heading towards Earth and think that shouldn't happen. So, as you might expect, the Avengers and the X-Men, they versus each other. Is the name of the book. This event is considered one of the most controversial Marvel events in recent years, mainly because a lot of the decisions felt very editorially driven, especially with 5 different writers. They're good writers. They're very good writers, but there's 5 of them. In the treatment of Cyclops as an antagonistic role when he's arguably right about what the Phoenix Force could mean for mutant kind is frustrating. The MCU has actually adapted beats from the story in the past, like in Black Panther 2 when Namor floods Wakanda, but it's also one of the definitive modern stories about what happens when these two teams.
That's one thing I cannot wait until they make this live action. It's gonna look so cool.
Fundamentally disagree, which makes it pretty relevant for Doomsday. So those are the stories that I think the MCU is going to be inspired by when it comes to the plot. But what about arguably the more important part, the characters? Because this movie is going to have 2 rival teams of Avengers.
I'm sorry, but the new Avengers lineup kind of Thor's kind of cool, Captain America, gotta love it. No, Fantastic Four in the back. I'm guessing that's Sentry over there, maybe. Yeah, I mean I don't know how this movie's gonna go, but I hope and pray that it is one of those movies.
Wakanda and all those characters, the Fantastic Four, the Fox Universe X-Men, and the return of Steve Rogers. Starting with the X-Men, honestly, there's a whole standalone video here for where to start reading X-Men comics, but for now, I'm just going to recommend Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon and John Cassaday from 2004. This is probably the most recommended modern X-Men run because it's probably one of the easiest jumping on points for new readers. The book follows Cyclops and Emma Frost leading a team of X-Men with Wolverine, Beast, and Kitty Pryde with the goal of basically re-establishing the X-Men as superheroes, to astonish the world, which is why it's called Astonishing. The first story revolves around the discovery of a supposed mutant cure and eventually the return of Colossus. And specifically for Doomsday, that run puts such a heavy emphasis on Cyclops to the point where it's essentially the modern standard for how the character is to be written. This is Scott as the true and natural leader, centering him in the story as opposed to pushing him off to the background and focus on Wolverine. Honestly, if you want to start reading X-Men, I say start with the original Lee and Kirby stuff, and then when you get sick of that, move on to Giant Size by Len Wein and Dave Cockrum, which is what reinvented the series. Then read Chris Claremont's run for as long as you want. That's where some of the most iconic stories happen, like Phoenix Saga and Days of Future Past. Then jump to New X-Men by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley. Read that as long as you want. Then after that, Astonishing, and then jump to the Krakoan Age with House of X and Powers of 10.
He's putting on very good comics. This is definitely those are definitely the comics you need to read or watch over before the X-Men movie in 2028. Gots to.
By Jonathan Hickman, Pepe Larraz, and R.B. Silva. That's oversimplifying a ridiculous amount of good X-Men stories, but if you've never read X-Men before, it's a very quick roadmap to get you started. Alongside Robert Doomsday Jr., one of the biggest draws of Doomsday is that Chris Evans is going to be returning as Steve Rogers, and I'm excited to see him come back to the role as much as the next guy, but I just know that that means Sam Wilson's Captain America is going to get pushed to the side. I love Sam Wilson as a character in Brave New World.
If they push this man to the side, and what was the point of all of that? At that point, I don't even care. Like, just give the shield back to Chris Evans, I guess. I don't know.
Really was not the best showcase for him as Cap. So the next book I recommend before Doomsday is Captain America Sam Wilson by Nick Spencer and Daniel Acuna from 2015. This picks up after Sam has already taken over as Captain America, after Steve lost the super soldier serum and was rapidly aged into an present. And especially after Brave New World did fuck all with him. I think that this is a really good book to read if you want to understand why Sam actually deserves to be Cap, beyond just Steve gave him the shield. This run actually leads directly into Spencer's run of Steve Rogers Captain America with art by Jesus Saez, and that directly ties to Spencer's Secret Empire from 2017, where it was revealed that Steve was working with Hydra. Now, that decision is a whole can of controversial worms that
A lot of people are speculating that Chris Evans' return to Doomsday is going to be Captain Hydra. I see it, but I don't think that's going to happen. Just because of there's literally nothing pointing to him to be Captain Hydra. Literally nothing. But, I mean, yeah, that'd be cool, but I don't think Marvel's going to go that way.
Don't want to get into today. I get what Spencer was going for, but I'm not a huge fan of turning the guy created by Jewish legends Joe Simon and Jack Kirby specifically as a symbol against Nazis into essentially a Nazi. But there are some people theorizing that Stephen Doomsday is secretly going to be Hydra Cap. He even lifted Mjolnir in the comics like in the trailer. So it's not entirely out of the question, although there was some cosmic cube fuckery going on there. One aspect of Doomsday that I'm really excited about is the Thunderbolts. I mean the new Avengers. I really like the idea of having two separate teams vying for the name Avengers, especially with...
Okay. So if you haven't seen this movie, it's a really good movie. Good watch. It came out, 2025? And this is a very good depiction of how a very uncontrolled team works. And I love it.
Characters like Sam and Bucky on opposing sides. And one book that I think is a big inspiration for this is Dark Avengers by Brian Michael Bendis and Mike Deodato from 2009. The premise for this book is that Norman Osborn of Green Goblin fame has somehow become one of the most trusted men in America after the events of Secret Invasion, and uses his newfound power to put together his own team of Avengers. The team consisted of Osborn as Iron Patriot, the Sentry, Novar as Captain Marvel, as well as several supervillains that are disguised as classic Avengers. Moonstone pretends to be Ms. Marvel, Mac Gargan's Venom pretends to be Spider-Man, Wolverine's disgruntled son Akihiro pretends to be Logan, and my personal favorite, Bullseye pretends to be Hawkeye. And the fun of the book comes from this dysfunctional team of dangerous lunatics having to maintain the...
I mean, let's be honest. Bullseye is a better Hawkeye. So, I mean...
illusion that they're a legitimate team of superheroes. Now, obviously, this isn't really what the Thunderbolts and the new Avengers are. Characters like Bucky and Yelena aren't like villains in the same way as like Bullseye, you know? But I think the core conceit of a team who's being run by someone who's morally dubious and using the Avengers name in order to get public support has quite a bit of overlap and was in some way the inspiration behind the events of Thunderbolts. Dark Avengers literally comes from Thunderbolts. I'm over-explaining it. Also, this book is just very cool. It was actually one of the first Marvel books that I ever read. In Doomsday, we see that Wakanda is going to have a pretty big role alongside the Fantastic Four, which I think is a fun nod to Black Panther first appearing in a Fantastic Four comic. And jumping a little bit ahead of Secret Wars, a few weeks ago at San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel announced that Ryan Coogler will be returning to direct Black Panther 3, with David Johnson taking over the mantle as T'Challa II. It's an announcement that I'm super excited about. I've been a fan of Johnson for a long time, and I'm really excited to see him carry that legacy forward, even if it's technically a different character. So the next book I'm going to recommend is Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates that began in 2016 with...
This is a really good, really good comic right here. Like, what he said that, you know, we're going to have a new T'Challa. Well, it's not going to be a new T'Challa, but this is like T'Challa Jr., right? So if you read this, this is going to be very, very good.
art by Brian Stelfreeze. This run is a bit more of a slow burn. It's very dense and political, but I think that's what makes the run stand out for me. The run begins with Wakanda in crisis. After years of catastrophe and invasion, the country is dealing with political unrest and a growing rebellion against the monarchy, forcing T'Challa to confront whether being a good man necessarily gives him the right to rule. It questions what the nation of Wakanda is, and if it should even be a monarchy despite having a just king, if such a thing can even exist. And over the course of the story, it grows more and more until by the end of it, it throws T'Challa into space and he's fighting an intergalactic Wakandan empire. There are a ton of great Black Panther comics you could go with, like Christopher Priest and Mark Texeira's run from 1998, which was enormously influential on basically every version of T'Challa that came afterward. Selfishly, I've just been reading Coates' memoir, Between the World of Me. Okay, I say reading, but I'm listening to the audiobook. I feel like that should count. And so it's been very interesting to read his Black Panther run and seeing him bring his perspectives on monarchy and power into a character like T'Challa. In terms of the Fantastic Four, honestly, you can't really go wrong with Jonathan Hickman, Steve Epting, and Dale Eaglesham's time in the book from 2009, which is what sets the foundation for 2015 Secret Wars. But if you want something that's a little bit more standalone, but gives you a good idea of who the Fantastic Four are, and also so that this video isn't like 85% Hickman, check out Mark Waid and Mike Waringo's run on Fantastic Four from 2002. Waid's run is one of the best introductions to what makes the Fantastic Four work, and it's an idea that goes to the core of even the original Stan Lee and Jack Kirby stories, and that's that the Fantastic Four are a family. They fight and they bicker. Reed is a husband and a father. Johnny is an annoying brother. Ben is the uncle. Ben is the fun-loving uncle, you know, and they all live together in the Baxter Building. And I especially love Waid's interpretation of Reed. There's this idea really early on in the run that the reason he turned the Fantastic Four into these larger-than-life celebrity superheroes was because he felt guilty for what happened to his family, and he wanted the world to look at them with admiration instead of fear. But you can't talk about the Fantastic Four without talking about the main star of this video and of Doomsday, and that's Doctor Doom. One of the biggest criticisms I've seen leading into Doomsday is that Doctor Doom hasn't been properly built up in the same way that Thanos was, that we know nothing about this character, and why should we be scared of him? So if you want to get an idea of who
that is 100% facts. We have no clue about Doctor Doom unless you're a big comic reader, but other than that, there's really nothing. Unless you watch Fantastic Four First Steps, a really good movie. I should definitely go watch that.
Doom is as a character and why he's so compelling, Mark Waid's Fantastic Four is also a great pick. If for no other reason, then he is straight up evil in this run. The big Doom story in this run is called Unthinkable, and the basic premise is that Doom finally accepts that he's never going to beat Reed Richards at his own game. So Doom decides to stop trying to play by Reed's rules of science, and instead he turns to something that Reed fundamentally doesn't understand: sorcery. To gain this power, he sacrifices his childhood love. Then he scars Reed's face, sends his son Franklin to hell basically, and turns his daughter into like a magical servant. He's so evil that I'm gonna be honest, I don't even think I'm like doing it justice with the way I describe it. It's the kind of story that says beneath all of Doom's charisma, his sympathetic motivations and potentially good intentions, at the end of the day, Doom can still be a monster, fueled by nothing more than pettiness and rage. Someone who is completely vile and beyond redemption. Which is why the next book you should read is Infamous Iron Man by Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Malee from 2016. This book follows Victor Von Doom after the events of Hickman's Secret Wars, a story where he fundamentally achieved his ultimate victory, becoming the God Emperor of all creation, a world literally created under his rule. He pulled out Thanos' spine like it was nothing. Remember that? Everybody loves that. And he still felt empty. And so, in the wake of that event, and with Tony Stark not doing so hot after the events of Civil War II, Victor Von Doom builds his own Iron Man armor and tries his hand at being a hero. And the best part is that he's genuinely trying. It's not like a ruse or a trick like the Dark Avengers or anything. Victor is truly trying his best to be a superhero. He's saving people, hunting down bad guys, even giving villains a chance at redemption the same way he had. But as expected, nobody believes him. S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't trust him, Ben Grimm tries to bring him down, and even the people Victor tries to help have every reason to assume that this is just another scheme. I mean, why would they? His name is Dr. fucking Doom, and the book doesn't really ask you to believe it either. It's a story that asks if someone with this much ego and this much blood on his hands can ever actually truly be good. Even if he's being sincere, even if his intentions are good, does that equate to redemption? When Robert Downey Jr. was first cast as Doom, I saw so many people saying, look, oh, they're doing Infamous Iron Man, it's like the comics. And I wanted to claw my eyes out. And the final book that I think you should read before Avengers Doomsday is Books of Doom from 2005 by Ed Brubaker and Pablo Raimondi. This is, for all intents and purposes, the Doctor Doom book. If Waid's run on Fantastic Four says that Doctor Doom is a vile, despicable monster, and Infamous Iron Man asks how a man like that could be redeemed, Books of Doom just asks, who is the man? Behind the mask, Who is Victor Von Doom? It's a 6-issue miniseries detailing Doom's life from his perspective, from his childhood to the death of his mother, the accident that scarred his face, his rivalry with Reed Richards, and eventually his rise as the ruler of Latveria. Everything that makes him who he is covered in this book, taking elements from all across his publication history and putting them into one cohesive story. I consider Books of Doom to be one of the all-time greats that everybody should read at least once. If you want to better understand Victor Von Doom, like his origin and who he is as a character and what makes him tick, then you absolutely 1,000,000% should read this comic. It will do you so much more than a couple end credit scenes ever could. Lately, there's been a lot of conversation going around about whether or not someone can call themselves a comic book fan if they don't read comics and only engage with the movies. And if you ask me, I'm not trying to gatekeep here, but I think that this conversation is a little bit silly. In my opinion, it only takes reading one comic to call yourself a comic book fan. You don't have to read everything that's ever been published or even read every new comic that comes out. Hell,
that's basically the end of the video. But for what he said, go read those comics. You will have a definite more understanding of what Doomsday is and who is Doom. I'm definitely going to check out those comics again. Some of those I haven't seen, some of those I have. But yeah, if you like this reaction, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. Now, press the bell, get notified, and yeah, we out. Peace. 20 minutes, not bad. Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. All right. Good. Good. All right. All right. Now we're on the point of the stream. We're gonna be making a tier list of every Disney Marvel shows. I think it's like 16 of them. I think. Not 100% sure, but yeah, I mean, definitely get into that for sure. And if you're in the stream, go ahead, type something in the chat, so I can see you. That would be awesome. Do that for me. Definitely would be cool. Yo, Jordan, how's it going? I've been good, bro. Just living life. Gotta love it, bro. How you doing? Freaking Jordan. Been too long, bro. Been too long. Yo, Jordan, how's it going? I've been good, bro. Alrighty. Gotta love it, bro. How you doing? Freaking Jordan. But yeah, Jordan, I've been good, living life to the fullest. But yeah. It's, you know, got 3 people watching. But I mean, it's pretty good. Pretty good so far. We've been streaming for about an hour. Yeah. Awesome. All right. We'll get to the next video. But yeah. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Rocky, back again with another video, and today we are ranking every Disney Plus Marvel show. This is my favorite category of Disney, so hope you have a good time watching this video. Let's get it. First one is What If. Me personally, What If wasn't the best for me. I definitely will put that. Definitely put it be neutral. Neutral is B. So yeah, this every season. I mean, season 1 was the best in my opinion, but season 2 and 3 was definitely mediocre for sure. I am Groot. I love Groot. Groot is an amazing character. I'm putting S tier. It was amazing. I don't even have anything else to say about that. Secret Invasion is dog water. This show was a waste of my time, and I will never, never watch it again. Never. All right. This is Daredevil Born Again. Daredevil Born Again is definitely a video that a video a series that I really like, especially from like Netflix. Um, this is definitely it's definitely A for me. Some other people could say B or S, but I definitely will put it at A for sure. Let's do the what was that? Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. All right, this is S tier. Any Spider-Man I love, except for like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man started, you know, you know. But this first season is really really good. Y'all should definitely go watch it. And yeah, I mean, uh, Werewolf by Night is definitely. I will put it a C. I'm not a big fan of it, but I would definitely say it's not better than What If, but it's definitely lower for sure. For sure. Marvel Zombies, it's all right to me. It's all right, so I'm putting a C. It's not the best for me. I'm not really a Marvel zombie kind of guy, but other than that, it's not a bad series. Wonder Man, this is S tier for me. Wonder Man is definitely live action. It's not like it's like basically on Broadway, and I love it. And I'm very sad that season two got cut off, but this show was very very good to watch. Ironheart, okay, Ironheart is definitely A for me, and I put it over Daredevil because I got to give props to the queen, but like this show was definitely really really good, especially coming from Wakanda Forever, and Riri was definitely putting in work in this show, and I love it. Echo, Echo's a D, and yeah, I got nothing else. X-Men '97 S tier. This show makes me feel like a kid again. I think this show is probably the best animated show they ever made, and I will stick to that. I will stick to that. All right, Moon Knight is a very forgettable show, but for me, I definitely put it A. Um, this show definitely had a lot of things going on, and I think that this show, if it did come out in a season two, I think it would do pretty good. But for me, it was not bad, so I put that at A. Hawkeye, I put that at B. I love Hawkeye. I love Kate Bishop, Elena. Echo was, eh. Kingpin was pretty good in the show, so I definitely put that at a B. But it's like a high everything, and I definitely would love to see a season two. Kamala Khan is awesome. The actor is amazing. Last four, last four. WandaVision, S tier, S tier. WandaVision's S tier. I don't care what anyone says. That is mother. All right. Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'll definitely put it B. Um, I love Bucky. I love Sam. It's just I think it didn't hit for me, and I think the reason why because they were filming it during COVID and a lot of stuff wasn't in the mix, so I don't think it came out as good. But last two, Loki, season one and season two, S tier. You're gonna see a lot of shows on this S tier list, but I personally think it's definitely S tier. Definitely S tier. Then last but not least, Agatha All Along is definitely an A. This show is just fun. Catherine Hahn as Agatha, amazing. She don't give a damn about anything, and I love it. But yeah, this is my ranking. Definitely a very quick ranking, but can definitely see what my likes are and what my dislikes are. And you already know these three dog water. But yeah, definitely S, A, B, C, and D. D is definitely is basically F for me. So, but yeah, if you like this, if you like this right here, please give me a like, comment, subscribe. You know, hit the bell, make sure you get notified. And yeah, we out. Peace. That was a quick video. Freak. Whoever's in the stream, thank you for joining. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I don't know who it is, but I hope whoever it is, y'all, hit me up in the chat. Hit me up in the chat. Hit me up. So we're running the stream for about an hour and 10 minutes. So yeah. Another thing I want to say is that this show or this movie that's coming out, Marvel wants or Disney wants us to watch these 15 movies. Just in an order, I don't know, but I'm definitely gonna be making a video over these 15 movies. Hopefully y'all enjoy that because that's gonna be the biggest video I make so far. But whoever's watching, thank you for watching. But yeah, other than that, I'm gonna pull up YouTube. Me. You haven't seen this movie. This movie is top tier. Top tier. S rank movie. I love it. Um, but yeah, definitely want to make something. Definitely want to. What else we got? And again, just to give you a format, go to my channel. All right, I'm close to 100 subs. I'm trying to get to 1,000 as quick as possible, but we are almost to 100 subs, and I definitely would like y'all to sub up. You know, react to the videos I got for you. Some of the videos audio is cut out for me, but I have fixed that in some other videos, so I would definitely check that out. But I would definitely have y'all go watch this and go watch my shorts as well. I'm gonna be pushing for probably another stream next Saturday. For now, I do appreciate y'all, whoever was in the chat. I do appreciate y'all coming in. And yeah, we'll see y'all later. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And yeah, we out. You have a good night.